for Demystifying the Levy for Management Apprenticeships. My name is Pam Holt. I am the Business Development Manager for Midlands and Cumbria. And also today I have with me Matty Connell.
Yeah, and I'm the Recruitment Manager for Key Training as well.
Okay, so just a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you can keep your mics muted, what we will do at the end of the session is open them up to questions. It's just to minimize any disruption. We're going to have a little talk about who are Key Training, a little bit of history of apprenticeships and how they've evolved, and also the apprenticeships that Key Training provides. The benefits of those both for the employer and for the learner. And Matty is going to take us through the apprenticeship levy.
Yeah.
Then from here, a little bit of in-depth about the leadership apprenticeships. And then, as we said, we're going to open it up to questions from you guys. At this point, it's up to you. You can either open your mic and ask us directly, or throughout the presentation, you can ask us questions, and we will just leave it till the end to go over them. So who are Key Training? What do we do? We've been established since 1965, and we've been offering training that improves speed and accuracy of data processing. Also addressing the practices and procedures of improving health and well-being and safety in the workplace. If you keep that in mind, in a few more slides, you'll see that it's repeating itself. But jumping forward to the 80s, Key Training was invited by the government to set up training centres around the country to reskill adults and school leavers, who could then work more efficiently in the ever-changing office environment. I'm sure after the past few years, you are also seeing the changes that we're going through as well. But we have been the innovators of this sector since, and we are now one of the leading training organisations working for the government. Jumping forward to present day, we have moved to a fully remote working model. Initially, this was in response to the pandemic. But since then, we've listened to both the employers and the learners' needs, how this has changed, and we are going to keep doing this. We are going to keep working with a fully remote model. For us as the training provider, it allows us flexibility on when we can start courses. So we are no longer structured to the first of the month is when this course starts. We can work with you as the employer and work with the easiest start date. It also allows you as the employer to allow the flexibility, and you're not losing that member of staff in the travel time. Just a couple of the companies that we work with. We can't put them all up here, or this presentation will just be logos. But we've got the Manpower Group, we've got Eurofins, Grumpy Joe's, Savills, okay? And each day we are onboarding the large companies as well as the SMEs. So a bit of history, the word apprenticeship has not been new to any of us. We would have heard this word back in our old schooling, and this is because apprenticeships have been around since the Middle Ages. If you look at this center tile, one bound by a legal agreement to work for another for a specific amount of time in return for instruction in a trade, art, or business. So it has evolved, but the fundamentals are kind of staying the same. Back in 1563, it did start to get a little bit more regulated with a prescribed system, setting out a little bit more precise conditions and terms. And each year, the government revisited this to make sure that the apprenticeships are working the best for employer, learner, and the provider. Back in the day, there was only allowed 3 apprenticeships, and they could only be men. As you can see now, gender does not come into whether you can do an apprenticeship, and also we are no longer restricted to 3. If you cast your mind back to the slide where I was talking about who Key Training are, we talked about the well-being, the processes, the data. You can see then that our business model back in the 60s has kind of remained the same. If you have a look now about the apprenticeships that we deliver as a provider, we are not staying with just one industry. All of you here with me today, if you just take a little bit of time, cast your eyes over, even though you're all from different industries, I'm sure that you could pinpoint somebody in your office who maybe has just stepped up into the team leader supervisor role and has the experience within your company in the industry, but just maybe needs that little bit of help on how to get the best out of managing a team. Or maybe you have somebody in the office who is kind of helping with the HR, but it's not their full HR job. Then that HR support apprenticeship would be great for them. So we're not pinpointing ourselves. We are out there trying to help every business within every industry grow and succeed. So of course, everybody wants return on investment. So what are the benefits for you as a company of upskilling your existing team? So mostly it will improve your productivity. The apprenticeships can run from a minimum of 12 months upwards. And what they're not going to do is they're not going to learn this information, retain it in their head, and not use it until they're at the end of the apprentice. What's going to happen is maybe they will do module 1, learn the new skills and knowledge, and then start implementing it. So throughout the apprenticeship, you are going to see that your team, your employees are coming back with new skills, new knowledge, implementing it, and increasing your productivity, which in turn increases your bottom line. It's going to raise your staff morale. Okay, all of us love that pat on the back and well done, you're doing a great job. But what better way to tell your staff that you care about them is that, one, you're going to invest in them in a course that has a minimum of 12 months, but two, that I see you growing and staying with our company. I want you to progress. I want you to get that promotion and in turn get that higher salary. Linking in with the raising the staff morale, it's going to reduce your staff turnover. We do have the Great Resignation. It is a thing where people are starting to job hop a little bit more than previously. So if they feel valued, they feel that you want them to stay and that you are giving them a clear path on how they progress, they're going to stay and be loyal to your company. In turn, if they are job hopping and moving on, we all know that hiring a new member of the team doesn't come for cheap. If that's not just your recruitment costs, that's a loss of productivity once you've got that new starter. They can't hit that ground running. You're also going to lose the productivity of your experienced staff because they would have to come in and help train them. Also, creating a talent pipeline. All of us are here to grow, whether that's personally or as the company owners, company managers. You want that business to grow. You want people to move up. And what you don't want to do is leave a gap in your business. So maybe your team leaders would move up into management roles and you've not got anybody prepped to fill that team leader space. The employee skills and meets the business needs. So maybe you're evolving as a business, maybe you're becoming more digital in how you work. So you would need your team, need your employees to step up and move along with you. It's going to improve that company image. Yes, you can put this on your website, share it on your social channels that, hey, look at me, I'm investing in my team. I want you to grow and I want you to be the best person. But also the word of mouth from your employees. That's the best advertising you can get. If they're going around saying, do you know what, my company cares about me, my company wants me to be good. If you do have vacancies, it's going to be easier for you to fill. If there's 2 job vacancies, both the same job description, both the same compensation, one doesn't have a clear progression, yet this one here says, do you know what, I will train you, I will invest in you, and I will help you move up. I think it's a no-brainer which one they're going to choose. And then also the benefits for the individual, for the learner, for your employee. As discussed, it's going to increase the motivation and the job satisfaction. They're not also going to have to make that choice that I want to learn these new skills. Do I go off to college and learn it and then come back into the working environment? That choice has been removed. They can do both at the same time. They can earn their salary and they can get their qualification. It's going to combine the practical on-the-job skills training and also off-the-job learning. This means that it's not going to be a course that is not relevant to their job role. So when we're teaching them, when they're with their learning coaches and their modules, it will be relevant to their job and to the industry. Staying on with the learning coaches is we do know that asking adult learners who have maybe not been in the education system for a while to come back into it can maybe cause a little bit of an anxiety for them. The learning coaches have seen this time and time again, and maybe even been through this themselves. So they're going to bring empathy, they're going to handhold them and let them know that coming back into education isn't something to be frightened of. They're going to have the ability to align the apprenticeship with personal development, as we discussed before, just giving them that clear progression that they've got something tangible and they can see where things are going, not just in a year's time you may get a promotion. The remote learning, so we've removed that hurdle. With the amount of learning and the hours that need to be committed to the apprenticeship, they can do this along with their work and life balance. It's also not a one-trick pony, so it's not just apprenticeship. I've done that and I'm going to tick that box and we're done. They have multiple levels, so maybe you could start training your junior staff, kind of encourage a learning environment within your company, and that they can keep moving up the ladder. And also they get that tangible stuff. They get that certificate. They get that I have completed something at the end. It's not just knowledge that's been taught to them. Again, going back to the previous slide, we all love that pat on the back, and this qualification will do that.
Thanks, Pam.
No problem. Thank you.
So just taking over, one of the major things that a lot of employers like to know about is sort of what is the levy and how does it work? So just starting off, the reason the apprenticeship levy was introduced was it was to help bridge the skills gap and allow businesses to encourage upskilling their staff members, investing in future talent, and giving them that opportunity to develop and grow, which, like Pam was talking about before, sort of giving them benefits. It leads to sort of increased productivity, more committed staff members, less turnover. So there's a lot of reasons that sort of can come into that. Levy employers, they are defined as, well, an employer who has a wage bill of over £3 million across a year. So across that sort of £3 million, the government will take 0.5% of that payroll and put it into a pot of funds, which they are allowed to use as an allowance to pay into the levy pot. And then from that point, you can use it to cover sort of all apprenticeship training costs, or any specific apprenticeship development programs, things along them lines. If you are a levy paying organisation, the funds do expire after 24 months. So you do have 24 months to use them. They sit in a pot until the end of that period. At the end of that 24 months, if you haven't used those funds that are available, they do go back into a central fund, which goes to the government, and they do allocate them out to employers to use for general funding. But with you paying into that, the main purpose is to try and use the funds and develop your staff members and not lose anything that you're sort of putting into that pot as well. You do also, a bit of a perk, you do receive a 10% top up as well from the government on top of that. So if you, so that 0.5% that you pay in of the 3 million, the government will fund another 10% on top of that. So it's a bit of a reward, and some additional sort of costs that you can then use to put towards training programs and developing staff members. One other feature is, especially I look after the recruitment side within Key Training, and another side of that is you can use the apprenticeship levy to sort of, we can advertise vacancies from our side and recruit brand new apprentices for the business. So whether it be sort of business admin, customer service, IT, things like that, and we can support you with recruiting, finding, and sort of delivering those apprenticeship programs as well. And they can be used for the existing staff members. As I mentioned, there's no age limit when it comes to delivering an apprenticeship. So they're available to anyone from the age of 16 onwards. And there is a little bit of a perk if you do have a 16 to 18-year-old within the business, or if you were wanting to recruit a 16 to 18-year-old, you do also receive a £1,000 incentive from the government as part of that as well. The government did introduce something called the levy share in 2021. And what that is levy companies, if they're not using all of their funds, and they would like to allocate funds out to specific businesses or or open them up to other companies to use as well, you can allocate up to 25% of your levy funds to other businesses to do so. And a good example of that was the Co-op. They introduced a scheme which was a levy share opportunity, and it was to help underrepresented groups use them funds to help, well, to bring together funding to support thousands of apprenticeships with the fund paying for training and assessments of young apprentices into work as well, which was quite good. And it does take a bit of a lengthy process to get that set up, but outside of that, it's good because you can develop relationships, work together, and also form sort of an apprenticeship plan outside of that, which is quite nice. And then just going through the costing charts, I know a lot of people would like to know how it works. How does it come out of the pot? How is all of it sort of taken? Well, how all the costs taken away. So I've put a couple of examples on the screen. You've got the operations management level 5 and the HR level 3, for example. The total costs are just underneath. So you've got 7,000 and 4,500. Of the total cost, 20% of that is held back at the beginning, and that 20% is held until the very end of the program, until that learner completes. And then outside of that, the remainder of the cost of the programs are then broken down across the training months. So for the operations management level 5, there's 15 months in learning, in training, and then they've got up to 5 months for endpoint assessment, which is where they would then complete and come out with their final result. During that 15 months, the remainder of the cost is then broken down and split across that. So an example would be for the management level 5, £373 would come out of the levy pot each month, and for the HR level 3, £257 would come out of that. And I know the big question is sometimes, what if you run out of funds, or what do you do sort of kind of across that? And it is then the government changed slightly how that works. So it means that if an employer was to run out of funds, they ask them to contribute 5% of what's remaining that month. So if say, for example, for the operations management level 5, if you were due to pay £373, but you only had £100 left in your levy pot for that month, they would then work out the remainder of what's left, so the £273, for example, and you would have to contribute 5% towards that, and the government would fund the remaining 95%. So it still works out that you're saving with a cost-effective strategy there as well. So they do promote employers to use all of their apprenticeship funds, and if they do then want to sort of explore further opportunities following that as well, to encourage that, they fund 95% of the programme also. Back over to you, Pam.
Thanks, Maddie. Great stuff there, explaining the levy and also what happens if you spend it all. So just a little bit on leadership apprenticeships. So we're going to have a look at both the team leader and also the operational manager level 5s. So for the team leader supervisor, this apprenticeships is for those managing and coaching individuals. It's going to include supporting and managing and developing team members. So as we said before, if you've had somebody new step up, maybe this is a skill set that they've yet to develop. Going to be managing projects, planning and monitoring workload and resources, and also delivering operational plans. A key one here is resolving problems. Obviously, we all know that people who are especially new in the job, this is a skill set that does take a little bit of coaching. So maybe the title of team leader supervisor is a little bit misleading, because for the job titles that are linked to it, of course, we have the supervisor and team leader, but we've got project officer, shift supervisor, foreman, shift manager. This could be a head waitress. This could be your head bar staff. This is anybody who is managing or supervising a team of 2 or more. In the job requirements that they would need to start the apprenticeship, as we said, they'd need 2 or more. They would also need access to a budget. Just to clarify this one, this is not that we are asking you to open up all your books to your employees. This can be monitored and kind of restricted. The point of this is that they are going to learn how to deal with a budget. So with that, they would need access and a little bit of an overview. So as we were saying, you can limit this. It could just be one product within your business. And of course, that's going to help them. For the amount of times that maybe you're saying, please don't use all that copy of paper and can you use scrap paper, maybe it's going to start teaching them that the reason why we need to look after things within the company and not just be like this with money or the cost of things. The entry requirements, so this has been made easier. So they may have the GCSEs, but if they don't have the GCSEs or they're an adult learner, and like myself, I don't know where the GCSE certificates are anymore, they can do the level 2 prior to taking the endpoint assessment. The endpoint assessment is what happens at the end of the apprenticeship. So maybe think of this a little bit like the exam. But it could be up to like 3 months, for example, and they will be assessed on their learning. So as long as they get the maths and English done before then, it's not too much of a problem if they don't have the GCSEs. So the team leader supervisor level 3, this is a 13-month program. As I said earlier, there is a minimum of 12 months for apprenticeships. So when they sign up, what's going to happen is we would go over what's called a skill scan. And this is just to make sure that that learner is on the correct course. What we don't want to do is start them on the apprenticeship. They know all the knowledge. They're going to go through all this just to get the certification. This is not the point of them. So we would go through a skill scan, check their knowledge, and make sure that we are enrolling them correctly. It may be if they have some knowledge, we might be able to reduce the time length of the course, but we can only reduce this to 12 months. At the end of the team leader supervisor, that is a 4-month EPA. The things they're going to learn about understanding different leadership styles and the benefits of coaching to support people rather than teaching or training. And they're going to understand the organizational cultures, equality, diversity, and inclusion. They're going to get to learn about people and team management models, not just this fits all, but everything to it, and also including team dynamics and the motivation techniques. They're going to get to go through the HR and legal requirements and also performance management techniques. These are going to go through goals and objectives and conducting appraisals. Reviewing performance, absence management, providing constructive feedback. So as you can see, this is really going to develop them to be the best team leader and supervisor. Moving on to operational and departmental manager level 5. So this is for an individual who manages teams or projects, okay, and achieving operational or department goals. They're going to be a little bit more senior management or the business owner. Okay, with the business owners, we know that you guys have got the expert industry knowledge, but maybe when you first started the company and you were wearing every single hat that goes, and as your company's grown, you've employed people to take these jobs on. Maybe now is the time for you to sit back and be like, maybe I can grow myself as a manager. Now I've got my team in front of me. So the key responsibilities are delivering operational plans, managing projects, and leading and managing teams. So the typical job titles, so operations manager, regional manager, divisional manager, departmental manager, and specialist. So as you can see, this one compared to the team leader, this is bringing it more into the ownership and you are a manager of X, Y, or Z. The job requirements of this is they need to be overseeing a budget. So part of the apprenticeship will be working with them and the budget that they already oversee as part of their job role. They need to be managing a minimum of 2 people. And the same as above with the requirement of the GCSEs. If that qualification isn't there, it's not a problem. We can actually work them through it before the endpoint assessment. So this one is a little bit longer, a little bit more theory and in depth to it. So this one is a 20-month apprenticeship. And during this, they're going to learn about operational management approaches and models, creating plans to deliver objectives, setting those key KPIs, not just pulling out figures, but actually understanding how to set them that they are achievable, but also in turn with your business growth. They're going to learn about understanding business development tools and also how to initiate and manage change by identifying barriers. They're going to use data security and management, and then also how to manage resources and develop the sales and marketing plans. And with that one, we're going to open it up to you guys. So as we said before, you can open your mics and ask us the questions, or if you wish, you can send them in the chat box and Matty is going to help go over them.
Yeah.
Has everybody gone quiet?
Hi, it's Craig. I have a question really about the entry criteria. Could you just run through that again for me? Because I tried to make some notes as you were talking through that. Is it a prerequisite that they have to have or complete a set number of GCSEs? And are those set criteria different in terms of what the apprenticeship levels are? So for an apprenticeship at a junior level, do they require less in the terms of entry requirements compared to a senior position?
Not really. It often depends upon the role itself. It more comes down to sort of the position that you're in and making sure it does sort of fit in with the program that we can deliver. Everyone prior to starting, they do have to do a small maths and English skills builder, which is just a government requirement. And it's to make sure they're working at a suitable level to get through the program. And because level 5 is they're going towards, well, it's degree level. So you have to show that you're at a standard where you can produce evidence to support that. And sort of communicate that throughout the apprenticeship. But the main thing really in terms of eligibility is making sure that you're within a role that can fit and tailor the qualification itself. So for level 5 management, making sure that you're in an operations departmental or overseeing sort of budgets where you've got involvement with that in those sort of areas.
Did you say that the entry criteria at level 5 was at degree level?
Yeah, level 5 is going towards degree level. Level 5, 6 and 7 are degree level sort of programs.
Okay. Now, I would class myself above level 5 in what I do and the number of people that I manage and the industry that I'm in. Yeah. But being honest with you, I think I would struggle doing that. I mean, I haven't done maths since 1983.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think the skills builders, they're just a bit of a refresher, because what happens is part of the apprenticeship, you will, regardless of whether you've got exemption grades or not, we would still support you in upskilling those 2 areas during it. You would do it on a day-to-day basis in any case as well. Things like sending emails, communicating, it's all using English skills. If you're dealing with budgets, you're using maths figures, maths numbers. So generally within your role, you will regularly use them skills. It's just we would upskill them as you go as well. But I think you'd be surprised at what level you may work at as well, because the initial assessments are more based around things that you would do in a workplace as opposed to sort of just generic maths and English skills builders.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions, queries? I know one frequent question that we do sometimes get just with the apprenticeship levy is sort of how do the funds go if you do pay into the levy, how does it go into the pot? So it's updated on a monthly basis. So each month, the percentage, although it's 0.5% of the payroll across the year, it's inputted on a monthly basis, just in case anyone's got any questions or queries around that as well.
Sorry, me again.
Yeah, no,
yeah, I'm filling in for everybody, I think, today. That's all right. The application process for the grant of the levy, how's that work?
It should, well, if you do you pay? Do you know if you pay into the levy or not?
No, we don't. No.
So if you don't pay into the levy, the funding does differ slightly between businesses. If you are a small employer, less than 15 members of staff, it would then be sort of it would be 95% funded, and then 5% sort of funded from an employer's perspective. If the apprentice was aged 16 to 18 and you were a small employer, it would be fully funded. And then if you do miss out on the levy threshold, but you are sort of a larger employer and you have sort of 50, 100 members of staff, it would then fall under the 95% and 5% as well. So smaller employers is based around age. Medium-sized comes down is sort of 5% funded, 5% funding from the employer, and then the levy would come out of the pot separately. But the government would notify you if you were a levy-paying employer, because you would have an account and things set up and put in place as well.
Is there access to that information that breaks down that in tables as to ages, you know, what the requirements are, what the costs are, what the percentages are split down?
Yeah, well, I can put that together and pop that through afterwards for you as well, just so you've got a copy of those. But yeah, because I know age does play an effect sometimes around that, because you do get incentives for 16 to 18-year-olds and things as well. So I'll pop all of that through following for you as well.
Thank you.
We just have a question in the chat box, Matty.
Yeah, oh no worries. Thanks, Jenna. So yeah, read the English and math skills. Do you assess level and therefore you can be exempt from them? Some people may not need upskilling. Yeah, that we would assess to see what level you're working at. As part of, well, a government requirement as part of the programme is that you do upskill your maths and English, regardless of sort of what level you're working at. If you did hold exemption grades, you don't sit any exams or anything as part of those, but throughout, you would always be upskilling them in terms of you would be producing evidence and things in any case as well. So you wouldn't necessarily be studying them, but you would be using them to help you get through the programme. So we would still look at those, but you wouldn't do as much if you were exempt.
Any more questions? Okay. Guys, if after this you go away and something pops up into your head, I think Matty's going to pop our contact details up now. Just send us an email and we will happily answer it for you. So depending on your location in the UK, the business development manager is assigned. So we've got Georgie looking after the Southeast and London. We've got Graham looking after Southwestern London, myself, Midlands and Cumbria, and we've got Suzanne taking on the North. And of course, Matty looking after our recruitment for the whole of the UK. So if you just make a note of our emails and ask us any questions, what's going to happen after this is I will send follow-up emails anyway, along with the presentation. So you have this as a reference point. But if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank you for coming and thank you for taking the time out of your working day. I hope this has given you some good information for you to go away with and hopefully answer some of those questions about upskilling your current employment.
Thanks, both.
Thanks,
Craig. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.